The real estate world is changing. Opportunity is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the very best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs, overcoming our fears, transforming ourselves so we can transform our business. This is Investor Creator.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Awesome. How are you doing?
Doing all right. I wanted to talk about something really quick. This is something that we had to do in my personal business. And for those of you that are new, we've got some new people in, so I appreciate you guys being here. So this is a support call, and all that means is that it's all about you. It's not about me. So generally, if I have a call that's themed, then we're going to talk about like a certain type of training, and I'm going to touch on something really quick at the beginning of this. But these support calls are about you, your deals, what you have going on, the support that we can give, okay? So happy to really talk about anything. But I did want to kind of share this with you guys. So we've had a pretty strong year so far. Right now, I believe we have 14 that we've put under contract since the beginning of the year. And our equity position across those 14 is right at $925,000. And so we're approaching the $1 million mark at this point. And so for those that know me pretty well, that's certainly not to brag, because we're really blessed to be where we are. But it's to show you guys what's possible, okay? But even with this, everything's based on fundamentals. And so talking about that, we had a transaction the other day in Atlanta. Okay, so we're marketing in Atlanta a little bit. And so we put 2 under contract in Atlanta the past 2 or 3 weeks. And so we had a situation where triage call happened. So for those that haven't gone through the training yet, the triage call is a 5-question script where we really decide whether we want to set the appointment or not. Okay, so had triage. At the end of triage, we get their walkaway number. So if they owe something, what they're hoping to walk away with at the end of the deal. So that's their check at closing. And the walkaway number was agreeable. So we were at 60% of as is value, give or take. And so I said to my acquisition guy, I said, yeah, go ahead and cut the deal. That's fine. A funny thing happened though, because he called back and he said, hey, we're good to go. And she said, well, I think I want to think about it. And really, I would like $15,000 more than what I agreed to sell to you for. Okay. And so my acquisition guy and I had this conversation today. And what it came down to was everything's going really well. So far as an average, we're somewhere around 12 or 13 leads per contract right now, which is exactly where we need to be. But what we're noticing is that we're not creating enough tension at times. Okay. So what I want to submit to you guys is that especially for those of you guys that are doing this over the phone. Okay. If we're in person, it's a lot easier for us to create rapport and trust in person much, much more quickly than we could do it over the phone. So it's like real estate 101, negotiation 101 is in person. But if you are doing this over the phone, like I'm doing, like Keith's doing, Nick does this a lot. We've got people all across in the group that are doing this all over the country. And so it's more difficult to create rapport and trust over the phone. And so the issue of creating tension is even more important, because the tension is what is going to create sticking power in your negotiation in your deals. So truths are found in extremes. So let's take an extreme. So let's assume that we have a house that's worth $300,000 and we get to the end of triage and they say, well, we own it free and clear, but we just want 150. If we say absolutely no problem, where can I meet you to sign this right now? Then we're going to begin. It's going to feel like they're being chased. Does that make sense? And so if we don't create the tension, and even if the price is agreeable, we still have to create the same tension. And so that's kind of what we segmented on some of our deals that we found, because we've had a little bit of a difficult time getting contracts back at times. And so we just want to be careful of that, right? So just kind of wanted to share that with you guys. We have to create tension whenever we're negotiating, because tension is going to create sticking power in our deals, okay? Guys, I've negotiated furniture in on deals I don't want and I'm going to throw away. I've negotiated time frames I don't care about, because if we make it too easy, it doesn't seem real, right? And this is so much more important when we're on the phone versus in person again. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Happy to open it up to anybody in the group. You guys, something fun you guys want to talk about?
Right, I got some.
Josh, what's up, man?
Nothing much. Just coming back from an appointment. So I'll start off with that, then I'll go to a deal. How about that? Talked to this lady like the beginning of the week. She told me she's trying to sell her dad's house. She's having issues with her son to sell. Her brother to sell the house. I guess he's been uncooperative, but I made it down to Tampa today, about an hour and a half drive from me, and went through the house. She kept talking about her brother, and I didn't realize brother lives like next door, literally. And so I went into. I was about to start, try to do numbers or work some numbers with her, or at least talk about some numbers with her, and brother comes out acting irate, charges her. Then my owner's son pulls his gun out, is pointing it at brother. This is all while I'm there trying to do a deal.
Well, good thing you're a police officer, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was just kind of like, whatever, this is so stupid. But long story short, I never got to the point to, I just decided to end it at that for now, and I'll just make contact with her when the cops are gone, because the cops came out, like 3 deputies out there, and I don't know, it's going to be a workable deal anyway. She got an appraisal on it, $235. She's already gotten investor offers in the 180s, and while I was there, 2 other investors showed up. So I'm kind of going on the philosophy that you've given of, and I'm going to let them do their thing, and I'll talk to her later tonight and see where they're at, see what I can step in and do. So not a bad piece of property across the street from Busch Gardens in Tampa.
Oh, wow.
It's in a little bit more of an impoverished area, and there might be some other potential there because the house is on a lot and there's 2 separate quarter-acre lots next to it. But right now they're all combined as one piece of property. So I might be able to, Ron and I talked about maybe splitting that up and selling it. I'm not sure.
So would that impact your exit, or is your 230 including that already?
I think that includes it. I'm going to try to get a hold of the actual paper appraisal. I'm not sure if it's separate or not, but even if it's not, I think the appraised value might be one thing, but I might be able to even sell the property at a higher value once it's split up. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit of a wild card, and that's always tough to compare.
What's the ARV on that one, Josh? What's the price point?
225 was the appraised value. She's getting offers at 180-ish. My thought process was, given the area, it might be a good direction to sell the lots off to some type of duplex investor. Or I'm not sure. There's already some newer residents duplexes in the area that you can see. The owner of this house, he just recently died. He was the original builder, and he was there since there was woods all around him. So he's kind of seen that area blow up.
Well, generally a lot is worth about 20% of whatever would go on top of it. So
right.
If the ARV is 200 exit, then we're looking at 40K pads, something like that. That's trended up over time because, there's just no lots available. So, if there's development going on in this, and surely there would be, if you're that close to Busch Gardens, you'd think that it would be a place that somebody would want to build a couple of daily rentals and just hold it.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting area. If you know that area pretty well, you know that Busch Gardens is randomly in more of an impoverished area as a whole. But
interesting.
I kind of actually had the same thought, somebody that wanted to do like an Airbnb or something like that. That'd be a perfect area to do it,
I would think so.
So that's one deal.
That's the craziest purchase stories I've ever heard. So that's really cool.
Well, as it's going down, I'm on the phone with Ron. Ron's on video chat watching this happening. And I'm just like, and I've got a history. I can't seem to buy a freaking house with my agency finding out about it. So I'm like, let's just add this to the issues here.
Ron, what'd you think about all this?
I was encouraging him to get the heck out of there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've already designed his business card. So it's going to him with 6 guns on both sides. And his slogan will be, I got a deal you can't refuse.
That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. I've had a gun pulled on me before. And I was at a house one time where the Metro police officer dog trainer had a dog that attacked her in front of me. And that was terrifying. I think I'd rather have the gun pulled on me, frankly, because that dog was vicious. But that's about the craziest I've heard, man. So hopefully, in terms, and I've been doing this 11, 12 years in terms of purchasing and another 5 years as a realtor before that. So hopefully you've kind of like taken the loss in terms of being in dangerous situations for a while, and you won't have this come up for another 10 years.
I guess we'll see.
We'll see. That's right. That's right.
So we going on to the next one. I'm sending it out today. Just want to kind of see what your thoughts are. But I went and looked at another property yesterday. I actually sourced this one out on Facebook. Ron talked to her a little while ago, and I finally got over there to look at it yesterday. Here are the numbers. So I'm really thinking that you could probably go 90 to 100 owner finance.
Okay.
No mortgage on it. I was able to get her down to 65 with a walkaway of 15 and probably repairs. If we do the philosophy of just sell it as is, we're looking at maybe 5,000, probably maybe a little bit more in repairs. Is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
No arrears. Oh, payments are $300 a month.
Let me stop you, Josh. So you bought this 15 now and 300 per month.
Correct.
Round of applause on that one, man. That's strong. That is strong. Strong. All right, cool. So for the new people, guys, this is a 0% interest deal. Okay, so the seller owns this free and clear. Josh negotiated a good price. So we've got as is equity as it stands. So this is where we're double dipping. So we're getting equity in price and we're getting equity in terms as well. And those are like the real home run deals. Okay, so we're at 65 cents on the dollar as it stands, ballparking, 65, 70 cents on the dollar. But then he's not tying up much cash. It's 15 down and 300 per month until paid at 0% interest. And so what that does is it makes your note grow over time. Or if you wanted to hold it as a rental, then you could do that too. But it's like a freaking free house. Okay. So 15 and 300 per month.
Right.
All right. Go ahead. Sorry, I got excited there for a second. I had to just make sure.
Yeah. So we worked through the numbers. After I left the place, she quote unquote told me she wanted to think about it. Long story short, she ended up texting me probably about 15 minutes later and said, "Hey, if you can do it, let's do it." I said, "That's fine." So I was getting the contract out to her. Then we were getting greedy out. Ron, I don't know if you want to say we were getting greedy or not, but we had talked about asking her, if she could go lower on the down payment. And she said, "Well, I can go 12.5 on the down payment, but 500 a month in the monthlies." And I was like, we'll go back up to 15.3 is kind of what my thought process was on it.
Yeah, 100%. Keep it 15.3. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, we'll see. I mean, the contract's going over today to sign. She's already got a clear title search on it. So I think what we might do is just use that and just kind of do an in-house closing with a warranty deed and try to lower our costs on the backside of that as well.
Yeah, so 50,000 divided by 300 per month. So we're looking at 166 months. So let me just kind of run through this for the newer people. So we'll get, conservatively speaking, a $10,000 down payment on this. So we have $90,000 plus we're going to do let's just say a $5K loan origination fee. Okay, so my note on this thing is going to be $95,000 on the note. Okay, so my profit box is in purple here. So this is my profit. Okay, so we're going to kind of color coordinate this. So in terms of my cash, I'll have 10K come in from the down payment. I've got 15 going out, so we're negative 5,000. But then we're going to talk about the note. So in terms of the note, we've got 95 wrapped around what's going to be 50. Okay, so we've got a $45,000 note, then that's day one. Okay, so day one, my note position's $45,000. Anybody want to run 7.9% on a 30? Keith, can you run this? 7.9% on a. It's okay if I caught you off guard. So you got to pay attention. 7.9% on a 30-year at 95K. It's roughly $760 or so. So 95,000.
How did you come up with the 45,000 note?
Yeah, so that is the $95,000 note that's created right here, minus buying it for 65 minus 15. So there's going to be 50K still remaining. Okay, so we'll have
I'm ready if you want to give me the numbers now.
Yeah. Okay. So $95,000 note, 7.9%, 30-year.
7.9 or 7.99?
Either way.
7.9 would give you a payment of $690.
$690. So $690 in, $300 out. So we're cash flowing $390 per month. In other words, and that $390 per month times 12 is what? Is $4,680. So my cash on cash return is 93% per year in terms of cash that I have invested in this deal. Okay. And then in 160 months, my seller's paid off completely. I've got free and clear cash flow on a deal that I have very little money in. And this note that's $95,000 face value day one has probably come down to about 75 or 80 grand. Any questions on that?
I'm pretty stoked about this one just because of the organic aspect of it. It's always nice to not have to pay for this. So
yeah, that's always good. So you did a Facebook post?
No, I scroll Marketplace all the time, just looking for owner finance, or looking for for sale by owner stuff. And I just reached out to her, and I know that market fairly well because I patrol it all the time. So I reached out to her, and then Ron called her and triaged her, and then I met up with her and did the walkthrough. And I was kind of nervous, not going to lie. She used to be a broker. She has a history in real estate. She knows it really well, but I just kind of laid it how it was in the perfect presentation. And she goes, "Oh yeah, that's not bad."
Yeah, perfect.
I said, "Okay." I just said, "Whatever you say, whatever she told me, I'll work it."
I've had one real estate agent bring me a deal. I've actually bought 4 or 5 houses from realtors that they're the owner and they just want to be done. So if somebody calls me and they're a realtor and they have a house that they need to sell, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of an amazing thing. Any other questions on this, guys?
When Josh when I talked to her at length in the triage, I realized she was a professional. She'd done fix and flips, but that to me was she understood the numbers. She knew, it was just a matter of laying out the numbers. It wasn't, you know what I mean? She was an intelligent person and experienced. So, we're not trying to fool anybody. This is what it is.
Yeah. And that's perfect, guys. We don't want to buy houses from 2 people. One, if they don't want to sell us a house, we try to figure out a way to keep them in there. And then secondly, if they don't know the value, I'd rather them go and find out value. I'm okay with somebody giving me a big equity position if they know what they're giving me, but I'm not okay with somebody selling us a $350,000 house because they think it's worth $200 and they want $200. Does that make sense? I just don't think that's super fair. The good thing is, like with the internet now, somebody can search their address and know within a reasonable amount of money what the property is worth within 10 minutes. So it's not as difficult as it was 20, 30 years ago, I'm sure. Very good, man. Let us know when the contract gets in, man, because this is a fun one. This is a good one. Who else has something fun?
I've got something fun.
Andrew, what's up, man?
Man, doing well. How are you doing?
Doing all right, buddy.
Sweet. Well, yeah, I appreciate you helping me out on this seller finance opportunity that I came across here in Middle Tennessee in White House. And as I've told you, I've never done these deals before. And I know you mentioned that you like to get them no interest and no balloon. And in this case, just to refresh, this is a seller that's got a property that's worth $270,000. It's 100% turnkey. I looked at it yesterday. It's in immaculate shape, not fully updated, but it's in a wonderful neighborhood in great shape. He wants $260,000 for the purchase price. He wants $20,000 down, which is 8% down, and then 5% interest for 30-year AM. And he's an 82-year-old guy and is trying to avoid paying capital gains, big chunks. That's why he doesn't just want cash. So that's why he wants to do something like this with a 5 to 7 year balloon. I talked to you about what my strategy would be. And, ideally I'd like to have no interest, but in this case you were thinking I could get someone out here that would be willing to put 20% down, which is around 50,000, to where we'd be able to pocket that 30 and then wrap it somehow. I don't know. I'm not very well versed in these. So just came here to say I met with the seller. It looks like it could be a solid opportunity. I know I built some solid rapport. He might work with me on that interest rate. And he said he's got some other people interested. So I don't know if he was just bluffing or what, but basically just wanted to know, just kind of go over this one again and see if it would all be worth it. And I mean, I'd be paying close to full market right now, and I'm pretty bullish on that area in particular, but it's like, I don't want to speculate too much. I don't want to be blinded by this potential 30K spread on the front end.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just wanted to discuss this one again, because I was going to try to call this guy again today.
Yeah. So This is one of these deals, guys, where like just because we can make it work doesn't mean that we necessarily should. And so I'm really on the fence with this. I know this area very well. We've transacted in this area and I like the area very much. But, so my number one rule is equity first, cash flow second. And the reason for that is not because I'm anti-cash flow. It's because you can have both. So it's like, why would you go out and try to create cash flow when you don't have an equity position? And equity is created in one of two ways, either in price or in the terms. So like what I was saying with Josh's deal that we just talked about, he has both. Like he has a good price, $65K on a $100K house, and we have good terms as well. So like that's the best of both worlds. On this kind of a deal, I mean, we're basically paying 100% of market value and we're paying basically market rates on the interest rate. Does that make sense? Now, can we make money on this? Yes, I think we probably can. I think the issue is going to be two things. It's number one, you have a balloon in 5 years. And so on your wrap, when you sell it with owner financing, you're going to have to do a 4-year balloon on the wrap. Okay. So that you have enough time that if they don't pay you off, that you can repossess the house and then resell it retail. And that's assuming that the retail market haven't had any kind of a dip in that time. Right. I can't guarantee that that's not going to be the case. Right. So like I'm really conservative in our numbers and I want to buy equity day one. Now, again, equity in price, equity in terms. If it was 260, 20 down and 1,000 per month, I'd say buy it. Okay. If it was 200K and, a 5% rate, I would be okay with that. But the way that it stands, for me, this would be a pass. Now I'm going to tell you how you could make it work. So, this kind of a deal, I think in this area, you're looking at OFV's owner finance value. I think you're looking at $300,000. You got $50,000 down. So we got $250 on your note plus a 3% loan origination fee. So we're at $257,500 on your note. So that's the amount that your buyer is going to owe you is $257,500. Does that make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody okay. So whenever we go through it, I mean, here's your cash. So cash, you'll have 50 come in, you'll have 20 go out. So you've got 30K cash that comes in for you. Okay. Then switching gears, we've got the note. So we've got 257 wrapped around what will be 240. Okay. So we've got 17,500 on your note. Everybody with me so far? Okay. So the third thing is cash flow. So, and I'm going to ballpark it here.
Well, Brad, I'm sorry. I lost 17.5. Where was that coming from again?
Yeah. So that's your note equity position.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're buying it for 260, 20 down, you'll owe the seller 240. Your buyer's going to owe you 257.5. So that the difference there is your 17.5. Okay. Then your cash flow, and I'm ballparking it. So we're going to sell this thing at, let's just be conservative again and say we get 2 points on the deal. We're looking at what, 5,200 or so per year. So, say $400 per month, $400 to $450 per month. Let's just split the difference and say $425 per month in cash flow. Okay. The cool part about this is that we're still getting 30K cash. We're getting a $17,000 note for the future. And that note is cash flowing $400 per month, give or take. Okay. On a deal that you got paid to take. And this is what I'm saying. So guys, Andrew's more of a wholesaler, fix and flipper guy. And this is the power of financing. So we're creating long-term equity positions and long-term net worth with the note, cash flow for today, and we're getting paid to take the asset. And so that's the power, right? Does that kind of make sense?
Absolutely. And I appreciate you taking a look at that. I'm just over here in a space of like, I could put down the 20, take title to it, and then you seem pretty confident I could find someone to pay significantly more. So I would get that chunk. And it's like, I don't have tons of these deals come. This is actually my first one that I'm even looking at. So looks like maybe I could make it work. And I understand, given what you've got going on, why you may be a bit more conservative. But that's just a better way to be, frankly, because I don't know what's going to happen with the value of this, but gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and is there anything that I need to be looking for as, say, if I end up meeting an agreement with the seller, any weird steps or anything? Because I've never even done any type of wrap or anything like that. Just putting that together, anything that I should avoid or look for in his contract that might be.
Well, I would never use his contract.
Okay.
Yeah. Never use your seller's contract.
Okay.
So use your own and just, you can write in special stipulations, whatever contract you want to use, and put in there, the terms that you're talking about. It's going to depend more on the closing docs, and it's going to depend on what you put in the PSA. So like one of the things that may be in the note is a due on sale provision. Okay. And we don't want that. Does that make sense? So basically a due on sale provision would say that in the event, Andrew, that you resell this thing, that the entire loan comes due. There's no reason for him to write that, because as long as he's getting paid and he's not having to pay the tax, then he should be okay. Okay. So I feel like I kind of avoided the question, but I guess the big answer is it depends. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
And is this like a weekly thing or something, or is this like part of your mastermind or?
Yeah. So guys, Andrew's a friend of a friend. And so he jumped in. I was like, hey, just jump into the support call. Yeah. We do these twice a week.
Oh, okay, great.
Twice a week.
Be interested in joining that. So
yeah, we'll talk about it.
Cool.
Will reached out to me earlier. He just jumped in. He said he had a fun one. He wanted to chat about an interesting triage call, it sounded like. Will, you there?
Yeah. So this is actually kind of triage on the back end for qualifying a buyer that I'm trying to line up for sub 3 before closing. And I've kind of lost hope that it's going to happen. So I'm getting geared up to close and do sub 2. But the point of this is this guy's been reaching out and he keeps saying he's interested. But he missed our showings because his wife went into labor and then it was a false and then they had to induce. And so anyways, long story short, we're set to close next Friday. And so he's like, man, whatever it takes, I'll do it. He's not worried about interest, not anything. He's just like, man, what do I got to do to get this house? So love the enthusiasm. And so anyways, we're going through, 3 times the monthly, payment for income. And, we're talking about the logistics of what the monthly payment would be and blah, blah, blah. So we get to the point where I'm like, I know he just mentioned he had a wife, he had a kid. I was like, so, will you send me your wife's name and email to, so that I can have you both on the deed and everything. He said, well, I have 2 wives. And I was like, what? What? He's like, yeah, I have 2 wives. And I was like, so are they both going to be on the title? He said,
that's a perfect question.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, do I live under a rock? Like, do I just not know how the world works? Like, does this thing happen? I don't know. So anyways, called the title company. I said, well, how do we close with 2 wives? Anyway, I just thought it was funny, guys. That's all.
That's so amazing. And your response to that was picture perfect. So who do we want on title? It's like, not my business. We're going to sell a house, so that's perfect, man. That's crazy though. So is it looking promising he's going to close it?
Well, actually, I was going to ask you about that if we could. So I'm not super thrilled with where we're at. The gross monthly income's okay, but the down payment is low. So we've been requiring 25 to anybody who says they're interested. We've been saying 25 is our minimum. He said, I could do 8. I said, yeah, that's definitely not going to work. He said, well, I could way, like everything I've got, I could do 13. And so my question was, I made 2 proposals. Could we, 1, cross-collateralize the loan? He said he doesn't have someone to co-sign. So I was like, is there anything we could do to cross-collateralize? Brad, I was going to ask if that's something that you would do or if you would just not do this. Or another question I asked was, could we do, if my minimum was 25 and he can do 13, could we do something where it's like, okay, for the first year, we're doing an extra 1,000 of principal payments per month until it drops, but I'm afraid of putting this guy underwater.
Yeah. So does he have any kind of seasonal work or where's the income from?
He said he's a contractor and one of his wives works for FedEx or something.
I'm sorry. That's just funny.
What state is that in?
Well, he's in Georgia, but he's moving to Tennessee. So,
Uh-oh.
I mean, I just, this is new to me, guys. I was like,
that makes 2 of us.
Didn't know this was a thing. I would love to close with them. The incentive is really compelling to get this thing closed sub 3. That would actually leave me 27 in the hole that I'd be paying myself back with. So not a huge deal. I've asked a private lender if they would help lend that delta, and I could do 10% interest only until I can close it out.
Mm-hmm.
I feel most nervous about a 3.5% down payment, right, on $375,000.
So but your cash flow is like $1,000 a month.
Well, now it'll be like $1,300.
$1,300. I mean, $27K to bring in $1,300 is pretty strong, man.
I agree with you. It's just, is a $13,000 down payment enough? Is that enough skin in the game to warrant the loan?
But it is if they have the income to substantiate the payment. And so what I would probably do in this case is I would do a lease purchase on it for a certain amount of time to make sure that the payment stream is going to be there as opposed to getting title. Okay. And so I would say, look, we're going to do 6 months and test everything out. You can go ahead and move in. We'll close in 6 months. Or if you come up with another, $12,000, then we can go ahead and close at that point as well. Now, I mean, one thing I want to caution you on, and I talked to Keith about this, is telling people what they have to have before they've seen the house. Okay. And this is a little bit different because there were tenants in there and they were moving out. And we had a property manager that was kind of squirrely. So this may be an exception, Will, but we don't want to tell a buyer like, hey, you have to have $25K before they've seen the house. Like I've literally had people say they have $2,000 down. They see the house. They love it. The wife starts poking the husband and saying, you've got to sell your antique car. Mm-hmm. And they come with 20 or 30,000.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, this stupid property management thing. I mean, I literally can't show or access the house until Monday. And, I've got the owner saying to the property management people like, hey, on Monday, we want Will to get the keys. Okay. But our closing's on Friday. And she's like, hey, I'm not giving anybody keys until I see an Alta statement. And I'm like, she works for you. You tell her what you want her to do, and she's going to do that. This whole thing is really, really, it's a little nerve wracking because we're closing on Friday and I'm saying, yeah, I can hope to show you the property on Tuesday or Wednesday, and if it looks good, we'll close on Friday. So yeah, point received for sure though. But yeah, if you would do this deal, Brad, I hear what you're saying about lease purchase. Love the sub 3 thing. If I could just, kind of be done and put it to bed, and not bury them with the payments. I mean, maybe the extra $1,000 a month isn't the right idea. Let's just do 3 points at 6.5%. And, let's just keep the payments where you can, keep up with them. And
yeah, I definitely don't want to make someone house poor knowingly, which is why we do 3 times net, because that's more conservative than conventional financing. So for the newer people, whenever we're owner financing a house to someone, we want to do whatever their net income is, divide by 3, the house payment, PITI should not be more than that. And we'll kind of, with extenuating circumstance, like play with that just a little bit. So if it's $3 over, we're not going to just say, no, you're out. But conventional financing is 31% front ratio on gross. So, I mean, we're more conservative than they are because we're using net income figures monthly versus gross income figures, right? And that's a big difference. It's a big difference. So I hear what you're saying, man. I mean, if I can help, let me know. But it sounds like you're in pretty good shape on it. I wish we had a better down payment. Guys, Will was talking to someone that had was it 85,000 down that we were like really close on?
No, it was 125.
125. And the stars just didn't align for us on that one, but that's okay. $1,300 a month cash flow, man. 10 deals like that for most people, they're done.
Yeah. I just don't want to have to get the house back. That's, and if I do, not the end of the world, but would prefer if I didn't.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Let me go to Cody. Cody, what's happening, man?
Yeah, I've got a quick one here. I'm assuming you'd pass on it, but I want to just verify. Mortgage 160, walkaway 10, 0 in repairs, 172 ARV, and it's no arrears. So the house seems to be in, perfect condition, granite countertops. The guy looks like he keeps up things perfect. Obviously there's not much equity here. And so just trying to figure out, do you feel like you'd go sub 3 here, or would you just say, hey, this doesn't have what we're looking for? He's got a 3.5% interest rate on a 30-year, and he's like 2 years into it. He refinanced it like 2 to 3 years ago.
Yeah. So I would take the deal and I would do sub 3. So, for me, anytime I can get 3.5% money, it's like a free deal, So I've got one very similar to this that we bought last month. We bought for like 190. It's at 2.8% fixed, but it's worth maybe 210, 220, something like that. It's not a big equity position, but it was good enough for us to take it on. So yeah, I would take this on, put the buyer in place, sell with owner finance. You'll get cash up front, take the note, take the cash flow.
Okay. All right. It doesn't bother you that it's, couple thousand, 2,000 in equity position there.
Well, my guess is that you're going to get the walk away down probably at some point. Okay. So that's number one. But would I still do it? Yeah, I probably still would. I mean, the thing is, like, you're going to make 3.5% on the deal. So, I mean, ballparking it, 7.9, 0.079 minus 0.035. So you're making 4.4% on 160,000 divided by 12. I mean, you're cash flowing 586 a month on this.
Okay.
So yeah, I would take it. You're going to have a pretty tight equity position, maybe 10 or 20K on the note, but $500-600, it's better than a stick in the eye.
Every day. Thank you.
You bet, man.
Would you do that same deal sub 2 or no?
No.
Why?
Not unless I wanted to keep it as a rental. Like if this was in a really appreciating area, then I might look at holding that, but I'm not a huge rental guy. But that's the only reason I would sub to this.
Meridian, Mississippi, does that concern you?
I don't know enough about it to make a determination.
Okay. All right.
I've been to Meridian, Mississippi before on work travel. There's not much there, but they have them all.
Okay. See, there they got them all.
We're golden then. They've got them all.
I love it. Thank you.
I think
Appreciate
it follows. From what I remember, it follows Brad's philosophy. If it's a Starbucks there, a Walmart there, and it has like more than, I think, 15,000 people. I don't remember the number of people, but it has that. So
all right, yeah. If we've got a Starbucks, we've got a Walmart or a Target, then we're usually in pretty good shape.
All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Cool, man. Best of luck on it. Carl, you're up, fella.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Hey, just so y'all know, Meridian is my stop off when I'm going to Louisiana. Meridian's a good town. There's also a Chick-fil-A and a couple of nice hotels and stuff like that. So it's not that bad of a place. It's my halfway point between Louisiana and Alabama. So anyway.
Carl, you Chick-fil-A, Carl.
Carl, I'll get you a house at about 7.9% interest.
You can stop there anytime you want.
Cool. Hey, Brad, did you see my message?
I don't think you guys knew, but I was on that call on Facebook where the pipe busted or whatever.
Oh, okay. So you heard all of it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure you caught that. I got videos and everything I'll send you. And
I don't need to see it. It's just going to upset me. So we bought this house for $15,000 and we probably put 30 or 40 in it, but we're retailing it. What do you think, Carl? 230?
Yeah, 230. I forget the numbers exactly. I'm going to get somebody out there to measure it too, because the county has it at 2109, but the last realtor who had it at 1769. So okay. I want to make sure that we got that straight. But if it's at the 2109, we're looking at putting it on the market at 249. I think it is.
Okay.
I think that's where we ended up at. If it's at the 2109, since you got it, well, you tell them the rest of the numbers, because I'm just pissed off about your numbers on this one.
Well, I tried to buy it cheaper, Carl, but I just couldn't.
That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. I hate you for this house. I really do. Tony did a great job on the inside, though.
Okay, cool. I haven't seen it in a long time. This was the worst flea infestation I've ever seen. Like, I'm going to tell a story of myself. So for some reason, I had a bottle of Four Roses single barrel in the trunk of my car. And so I went to this house and I was like, and I knew that there were fleas, but it had been treated. And I was like, there may be some fleas. It's not going to be too bad. Like I get, I don't know, 10 or 15 steps into the house and I can feel them attack my legs. And so I'm a pretty fair complected guy. And I look back and from my knees down, I can't see anything white. It's just fleas. It was the grossest thing ever. And so like I run to my car, I'm in the middle of the driveway, taking off my clothes down to my underwear. And I grab this bottle of probably $60 bourbon and I'm pouring it on my legs to get rid of these things, you know? And then I'm thinking the whole ride back to Nashville, like, what am I going to say if I get pulled over? It's like, sir, I can smell alcohol in me. Like, yeah, you totally can. It's all over my legs are these fleas and I'm a house guy and all. Luckily, it didn't happen. But this was one of the grossest houses I'd ever seen, which is why we bought it so cheap. But we did okay on it. But I'm assuming that's not what you wanted to chat about. But
yeah, no, it's all good. And the photographer, she was there too. She got all the photos minus the water and whatnot.
Yeah.
But no, I'm on my way to one right now from here, and the ARV on this one is $290K. She's got a mortgage of $70K. She started at 100, wanting to walk away 100. It needs about 25,000 in repairs. I've got her down so far to 65K walk away. That's what she says she wants. I'm going to work on her some more when I get there.
Well, yes, but we're okay the way we are. So sometimes it's best not to rock the boat. I mean, we got 100K sitting right now. You know, so
okay.
If I had to go in and pay the 65, I mean, again, you may have missed what I talked about at the beginning. Create the tension in your negotiation. No, don't make it easy at 65 walk away. But if I had to do 65, it's okay.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. All right.
So I've seen a lot of investors get greedy and they offer 5K. You know, they walk from a deal over 5K when they were making 60 or 70 on the back because it was an ego thing Carl's not an ego guy. But, you know, the 5K was like they wanted to win on the purchase when they were really winning on the back end anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. So you're going to
yeah, I'm headed there now. I got another hour before that appointment.
Okay.
And one more, and then I'll get off. Had one yesterday. The one I was telling you about way out in the middle of nowhere, this place called Town Creek, Alabama. Finally got to go over there to see that guy. It's the ARV on it is 86.4. It's free and clear. He's owned it for 31 years. Needs work, but you know, I don't know, 20K just to get it, you know, up to date because he hasn't done a thing to it for 31 years. However, he was looking for 48.5, and when I got into it, asking him why he needed that, he said he really needs 25 to start because he's got to he wants to build he raises dogs too, and he wants to build a kennel out to where he's moving to, and he needs 25 to do that, as well as, you know, get everything right for it. And then he was open to receiving payments on, you know, the remainder. Let's just say another 25K.
Okay. Yeah.
So my intent is to, you know, offer him that other 25K maybe over 10 or 15 years, because he talked about renting it if he didn't sell it. I got that off of the triage, or when you're at the house. He said when you're asking them, what are you going to do if you don't sell? He said, you know, if they say they're thinking about renting it, then that's a good end to see if they'll take payment.
Yes.
And so he said the magic word saying, I might rent it. So then I said, well, look, what if we, you know, did maybe, you know, the 20 down that you need, 25 down that you need for the house, for the kennel, and then do the balance of payments. And that way you'll be getting payments every month because he's getting ready to retire as a coach anyway.
That makes sense, man. And generally you can take the rental amount that someone's going to get and then subtract out, okay, how much is vacancy? How much is repair costs per month? How much is your taxes? How much are your insurance? And he's going to be down to $250 or $350 a month net that he was going to get. And then you say, well, if I could get you what you were going to make anyway, would something like that work? You know?
Yeah.
So I think you're in good shape on both these, man.
Okay. All right.
So, but hey,
well, I'm headed.
Yeah, Carl, you got to do the selfie. If you get this deal with the 120K equity position, you got to do the selfie. This is the danger of coming to these calls. Sometimes we ask you to do selfies. Will knows.
Okay, I will. The husband's going to be there this time though, so we'll see what happens. What he said.
No, that's all right. We like husbands.
She just wants to get rid of it. So.
Yeah. What's the situation on that one? What's the motivation?
Well, the motivation on this one is it's just the two of them. They're both in their mid-60s. Their son, who was in the Air Force, got out, came home with his wife, and his wife with 2.5 kids went on the way. She had that kid, and now she's pregnant again. And so they've run out of space in the house. And it doesn't look like the son and the wife and the kids are going anywhere. So they just out of space. They're out of slips in that house. And that's why they just want to go ahead on and move on. And, they're going to obviously use whatever money they get as a down payment, but they don't necessarily need the down payment money.
Gotcha. And is this in Huntsville? No, it's an hour out?
No, this one is in, this one is in Hazel Green. So I'm going from Somerville, from your house right now, all the way to Hazel Green on the other north side of Huntsville.
Okay. All right. Right on, man. Keep us posted.
Sure will.
All
Thanks.
right, man. You bet. Keith, you're up, buddy.
Great. I wanted to run those numbers of the house that I got yesterday. ARV, and I'm more dialed in with my numbers in the text that I sent you. So ARV, 28,000, mortgage 0, walkaway 6, repairs 12, arrears 2 for taxes.
Okay. So what's these repairs?
Roof.
Like roof needs to be done in the next 5 years, or we're pouring buckets right now?
Roof is leaking in the laundry room.
All right.
So I have 5 for the roof, paint, interior, exterior at 36, a little bit of landscaping, seal the basement. And that one, I don't know if that's true. She said that it may be the hot water heater, but her son is coming over today to see if it's like the rain coming up and coming in between a cracked seal between, they have an addition in the back and it's 2 slabs and she knows that there's a crack in the slab, but that's where the water is pooling, but she doesn't know if it's coming up from the rainwater or if it's coming down from the hot water heater.
It would take a hell of a lot of water from a water heater to create an issue. I mean, I say that's not necessarily true because Carl just called and said, hey, we've got a river flowing from your house out the garage down the driveway. That's how that goes.
So whatever it is, it's not super bad, but I allocated like $500 if it's the hot water heater, then replace the hot water heater. If it's a seal, I think that you can just seal it as if you were going to seal a basement. I don't actually know, but I allocated $500 for that. And then house cleaners to go in there and clean up the place. So total is $12,000.
Okay. So what you thinking on it?
I'd like to rent it out. I don't know if PropStream, so I love PropStream for the comps and the ARV and such. I don't know if the monthly rent on it is correct. So I'm actually signing up for Rentometer or Rentometer, however you say it. If anybody has any other.
How's that?
Jackson, Mississippi.
Jackson, Mississippi. Okay.
But PropStream says that I could rent it for $867. So I figured, well, let's say it's like super far off. If I can rent it for $750 and I'm all in for $20, that's a reasonable, I think that it's more than reasonable return. Yeah. Is that a strategy that you would do there, or would you do something else?
So the ARV, when was the house built? Ballpark.
1950.
Yeah. So, I mean, do we know if we have galvanized? Do we know if, obviously we have lead-based paint. Do we have knob and tube, or do we have like the good wiring? Not sure.
Everything that you just said is over my head.
Okay. So like galvanized plumbing is, it corrodes over time, so you have to replace it. I mean, that's a big expense. And if you don't, as it begins to corrode, the water is rusty, so it's not drinkable. So galvanized plumbing, knob and tube, electric. Generally speaking, you're not really supposed to insure knob and tube houses because if it's a fire hazard. And so if there is a fire and they find out it's knob and tube, then they're not going to provide coverage. So what I'm trying to come up with in my head is like, okay, if this was a house built in the 90s, we know that the major systems are pretty much up to standard, then we're not going to have a whole lot of repair costs over time. Okay, what we don't want to do is, even though this house is cheap as it stands, and my guess is, this 12 you can probably get done for 7 or 8 to get it rentable. it's like what we don't want to do is buy a problem where Keith is in Hawaii. He's buying all over the country right now. And so like having a rental in Jackson, Mississippi, wherever that is, and then you don't have boots on the ground, you have to have a property manager. I just don't want to create a problem.
Yeah.
You know, so at 1950s build, we're going to have more systems issues the next 10 years than if it was a 1990s house. And that's pretty, it's like, geez, Brad, like what a genius you are to come up with such a statement. But you guys, you see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't want you to get into this. And then like your tenant goes in there and they say, hey, you know, we're taking a shower and it kind of smells like rust. And then like we get a glass of water and it looks like on Walk the Line, the movie where Johnny Cash goes to Folsom Prison and the water's yellow. And then you have that issue. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
Get the home inspection and you'll know. So I think like for now, let's reconvene on this in a week or two. Whenever you have the home inspection, we can see what you have.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thanks.
Is that the only one you have?
I locked up another one earlier. I don't have everything all prepared, but I have rough numbers in my memory. Actually, I think I can pull it up pretty quickly here. So this other one I just texted Nick about. It was the one that we were talking about last week. I finally got it under contract a couple days ago. This one, ARV.
Let's see. Give me the address, Keith, so I can do some stuff while you're talking.
1010 South 51st Street. 1010 South 51st Street, Temple, Texas, 76504.
Okay.
So I have ARV of 100. Actually, you know what? I'm freaking smart and I put links in my thingamajig here. So let me just click on these links and that'll help. Okay. So my ARV is 100,000. If I were to take it retail, I plan on taking this sub 3 though. So repair 27, mortgage 57, walk away. Gosh dang it, of all things to not write down, that's what I have. Oh, 2,500. Oh, that's right. I have some now, some later. So total is $7,500. Some now is $2,500 and it's $300 a month, principal only until paid. So it's 18 months. And then arrears is $2,000.
Okay. Is that
what
mortgage payments or is that taxes?
Mortgage payments, taxes are escrowed into her mortgage.
Okay, great.
So what I was planning on doing was owner financing at 95. And then hopefully I'll be able to get 15% down, which is approximately $15,000 down payment. And then my calculator over here is all jacked up, but basically her monthly payment is $844. That's PITI.
Do we have PI?
No, she has to send me her statement.
Well, let's ballpark it and say 200 off. So 644. Okay. We got a high rate there if that's the amount, or we have a
How long has it been paid down on? Did you look that up?
Yeah.
What's the remaining term on it?
No, I haven't looked that up.
Here, I'll look it up in prop straight. Because that's what I'm seeing. A lot of this stuff with the higher rates and stuff that's been, 10 years down the 30-year term road, at least, maybe 15.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's that high. I don't know that I've seen anything written above 5% in, I don't know, probably
who knows how
10 years.
Yeah.
So I have that the sale date was 2012 and it was.
You have PropStream, right, Keith?
Yeah, I'm looking it up.
You know how to find and calculate it off there, don't you?
Mortgage and transaction history.
Yeah, then you can calculate. Then you put it in a calculator, and you can calculate what the interest rate and
right.
remaining term is.
So I have in 2012, she took out a loan of $69,600. That's estimated though. I don't have to pay for the document.
Okay. Well, then we've got some kind of an escrow thing or something, because in 2012, I don't think you could find money that would be expensive enough to create a 644 payment.
Okay.
Okay. So let's run it that way. Let's just assume that we're at a 6% rate and she financed 69.
69.
Yeah. 5% and 30. So that would be a 370 payment, even at, well, that's at 5%. Let's say 6%. That's 413. So let's just say we're at 425 out. You've got some kind of an escrow issue here, or you've got a term that's not a 30-year term.
Okay.
Or just a junk lender that is just super uncommon. Go ahead. All right.
I'm not able to see like who she financed with. I have written down that her monthly interest rate is 3.5, but that's like my default. If I don't know, I put in 3.5. Yeah, that's probably wrong.
Yeah. We'll get the statement and deal with that.
Yeah, we'll get the statement next week. She's going to email it. She doesn't even get her mail. One of her friends gets her mail, so she had to get it requested to get sent to her. As soon as she gets it, she'll scan and email it to me this week.
Okay.
But my idea, so you have it written down. Owner finance at 95, hopefully get 15. That way I walk away with about a $9,000 down payment profit with monthly cash flow. And that is my monthly cash flow is all jacked up because I don't actually know what her payment is.
Right. Well, let's say it's 85,000. And Nick all the time does 9.9 in these Texas markets. So we'll do 9.9.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I do APOR plus 6.5% to keep it a qualified conforming mortgage. But it's probably right now, you're probably looking at about 9.25 max. So I wouldn't go more than that personally.
All right. We'll just say 9.
Yeah.
So that's 683 in 683 minus 425. So say 260 per month. It's on the low end, but
yeah,
but your net position is 57, 67, 77, 28,000, something like that.
Okay.
My guess by looking at this, I think this was probably a seller finance deal when she bought it. Just my hunch.
Yeah, something's up with it, isn't it? I mean, there's something. The payment's too high. Either the rate is garbage, or
taxes and insurance are high, and that's probably part of it. Oh, wait a second. No, I lied. This was an FHA loan with Fairway. I lied. Yeah, this initially was an FHA loan in 2012 for $68,682 with Fairway. So
how did you find that?
It's my job, Keith. It's my job. No, just kidding. I got this off of this.
You tell him, man. You tell him.
Come on, man. This is from Propelio. I found this to my Propelio app.
Oh, got it. Okay.
I don't get the detail. I don't like it as much because it doesn't give me like the loan term and rate and stuff like that. I like PropStream better for that, but at least I know I do see the lender on this one where PropStream didn't show the lender.
Okay.
I think you're good on this one too, man. Okay. Keith messaged me, I guess it was last night or the night before, and he said, man, I keep buying stuff. I'm trying not to buy right now, and I keep buying. And I was like, that's a terrible position, man. It's a terrible life, but somebody has to live it, and I'm sorry that it's you.
I'm on 3 weeks of marketing shut off and still got a property a week, which is awesome.
Yeah. So, guys, that's what good lead generation and decent follow-up systems will do. Keith is like, they're following up with me, asking me if I'm still interested. Makes a difference. All right. Keith, anything else, buddy?
Yeah, just a question on the last one regarding rents. Does anybody have any good things besides rentometer? Is that good? Is that probably the best thing out there?
Hey, this is Carl. I'll tell you, I mean, as much as they suck, Zillow has pretty good rent rates. Their rents are usually pretty good, pretty on spot. Their estimates, forget it. But the rent that they show, it's on, and I have rental meter, and whenever I do something in rental meter, it's the same number I get out of Zillow.
Cool.
So I would just stick with Zillow's number if you have to, or check with the local property manager. But from rental meter, it's never a variation. I haven't had a variation yet anyway.
Do you think they just steal it from Zillow? That'd be pretty jacked up. You're paying like $20 a month.
Either that or Zillow steals it from them.
Yeah, well, Zillow. So PropStream says $869 and Zillow says $850. So I'm feeling pretty good with my 750 number.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good.
All right, cool. Thanks, Brad.
Cool, man.
Thanks, Carl.
Ray, what's happening, dude?
Hey, how's it going, Brad?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good. Hey, I actually had a lead coming in. I'm going to see it this coming Friday. I just kind of wanted your opinion on what you think you would do with it.
All right.
The mortgage, the balance is 100,000. The walkaway is 10. The repairs, I'm not quite sure. I mean, as of right now, if I had a ballpark it, I would say like 15. But I didn't see the house yet.
How big's the house? Do you know roughly the square footage?
It was about 1,250, around that ballpark.
Okay. So, I mean, a 15K budget gives us a decent cosmetic budget. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. ARV about 155, and then rears none. And now, this is why I kind of wanted your opinion on it. So it's in a town that I know. It's kind of like the town, half of it is like a war zone, and the other half is like okay, like mediocre. I haven't seen the area yet, so I'm not quite sure which section it's in. Online, it looks like it's not in a horrible area. I'm just not quite sure what I should do with this one.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're at 76% of value if we get the walkaway down to 5 and then the repairs down to 10. So, I mean, this is not really a retail deal unless it looks like the 150 is a little bit too conservative. Because what I'm seeing in these lower price ranges, and of course it's market depending, but what I'm seeing in these lower price ranges where there's not much inventory is nobody knows what pricing is. So, yeah, I'm putting stuff on the market where I think it's overvalued and it's still going 10K over ask. And so, the question that we have is not whether it's going to sell for what price, it's what is it going to appraise, So if you're in that kind of a market, then we can look at it and say, well, maybe this is really a 160 or 165 house, which would really help. But let's assume that these numbers are correct and you get the walkaway down a little bit and the repairs are a little bit better than what you think. I mean, this is still not something that we can retail. And so this is going to be one where this is a picture perfect owner finance, assuming that the 100K is at a preferable rate, which almost all the time it is. It's really rare that we run into expensive money. Like Braden had like a 9.9% underlying somewhere in Louisiana, I think, but maybe a couple months ago. That's the highest that I've seen in a long time. But, overall, this is a sub-3 deal. Owner finance it, really good price range owner finance in. And I think you'd be okay in it, assuming you don't get shot. So let's stay out of the war zones. That's the only thing poor Josh, man, I cannot imagine. Poor Josh, guns getting pulled. He's like, I'm just trying to go over some numbers here to buy a house, and that's kind of that. But,
Yeah, I'm quite sure about this area. Well, obviously, until I get there, I know there's a lot of war zones out there. But, so you would do this either sub 3 or sub 2? Would you take it sub 2 or no?
I don't think so.
You would just sub 3 it?
Yeah. If the rate was really cheap to maybe 3.5%, let's just say under 4%, then I would consider it if it's in a decent area and all of that, if I had to. So like, let's say this thing they have to sell in the next 2 weeks for some reason, and that's the only way that I could do the deal, then I would consider it. I wouldn't be totally excited about it. So,
yeah, that they want it to be out within 30 days, which is kind of weird because I'm kind of thinking that they're not really set on 30 days because I called her a week ago and, that was actually I posted up a question for the triage call in the Facebook group because I kind of got thrown off guard. I'm going through triage and then I'm like, how much is left on the mortgage? She's like, well, I don't know. And then I'm like, well, how much are you looking to get? She's like, well, I don't know again. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, this triage isn't going that great. So I said, okay, well, how about when you figure out what the mortgage is, give me a call back. And she never called. So I followed up with her this past week. I followed up with her yesterday, and we took the appointment for Friday. That's the only time she was available.
Okay. So, and so we know the mortgage is 100 now?
Yeah, we know the mortgage is 100. So I know she wants to move in 30 days, but I don't know if she's 100% set. Considering she didn't even get back to me and that if it went over, if I was, to do the sub 3 a little bit longer, I don't think it'd be a big deal.
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I don't think he's like real strict on the 30 days.
I think I got about half that. I don't know, like your microphone's extra scratchy or you're rolling around on the floor. I'm assuming it's a microphone. Yeah. So, I mean, let me address this really quick. If in triage someone doesn't know their mortgage amount, then we're going to kind of just open it up for them to guess. Okay. And then later on, we're going to talk about the walkaway number. If we don't have the number for the mortgage, we cannot continue triage. Okay. So if someone says, well, I'm really not sure what it is, like, oh, I'm not going to hold you to it. Just what's your best guess? Well, I hate to give you a number. Well, Wrigley Field, give me a ballpark figure, And if they still, well, I really don't know. It's like, well, tax record says that you bought it for $300, and at that point you borrowed $280. So, do you think you owe more than $300? Oh no, definitely not that. Okay, well, do you think you owe $250? Oh yeah, I owe more than $250. Okay, well, let's just call it $275. So we can brace it on both sides. What they bought it for, and then something that we assume, unless they made a big principal payment, would never happen on the low end, to get them to come up and say, no, we definitely owe more than $250, and then we can kind of, brace it in the middle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And so, at that point, we can talk about a walk away. If you owe $275, what are you hoping to walk away with?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, run the appointment, see how things go, sign up the best deal you can if it makes sense. And then you can get your home inspection if you need to and renegotiate if you need to, based on what you find out there. But overall, this is a nice base hit, assuming the rate is what we think it's going to be.
Right. So this will definitely be sub 3 all the way then.
Well, I'm going to leave my foot in the door for sub 2, but I'm really walking quickly to the sub 3 room, if that makes sense. So I'm not going to say no to sub 2, but probably not.
Got it. And then, okay. Yep. And that's it for this deal. Oh, and I did call about that other deal I had going on. Same thing, Waterbury. I did try to negotiate that second lien, that second mortgage down. So they said, I asked to speak to a manager. They said they're like, well, what do you want to speak to the manager about? I'm like, well, about, purchasing the note on this property. And then they're like, well, I could help you with that. And I'm like, okay, well, are you a decision maker? And then they said, well, yeah, I can negotiate the price with you, which then later on, I did find out that he can only negotiate up to so much. And then
you have to get a manager.
And then he said he wouldn't even consider, so I got him down. So I did exactly what you said. I actually started at 2,500, which I thought was going to be like, I thought he was going to laugh at me because it's 100K. So it was 100K. I'm like, listen, man, I got 2,500 for you. And then he's basically like, 2,500 on 100. I'm like, listen, you guys haven't been paid since 2011. I'm like, well, if this thing forecloses, you could have nothing. And then they're like, no, they're like, yeah, I think we're at that point. We'll risk taking our chances. They're like, if you come at me with like 20, about 20,000, 25,000, that would be a different story. I'm like, man, I can't do that. I'm like, would you consider 5? And then that's basically where we left off. He's like, unless you're going to come up to at least 20, he's like, I can't even go and talk to my manager. He says it's not even worth it. And I'm like, well, could I talk to the manager? He's like, no. He's like, I already know that it's a no. That's pretty much what happened there.
So were you surprised by that? That came from 100 to 20 in one phone call?
Yeah. And you want to know what? I actually think this is a good learning experience for me. But also, here, let me tell you where I think I dropped the ball too. So I was talking to him. I said, listen, I'm trying to purchase this house. I'm like, rehab it. Then this is where I dropped the ball. I said to him, the first mortgage was was a lot higher than I expected. And then before I even got a chance to finish, he's like, well, how much is the first mortgage? Like an idiot, I told him. I shouldn't have told him what the mortgage was. I'm like, the first mortgage was 220. And he ended up pulling up comps. And he's like, the comp is about 275. He said, my 20. He's like, so that's what we would be looking to get. And I put my foot in my mouth. Should have said, oh yeah, the first mortgage is like 260. You know what I mean?
Well, I wouldn't lie to them. And I know that that's not what you're saying, but I think it's very fair to say, look, I don't remember exactly, which is the truth, because you don't know exactly. You don't know to the penny what it is. But it's like, I don't know exactly, but it's really high. And I'm just trying to make this thing work. And I mean, if I can get you guys out of the way and you make something, then I can take this thing on and maybe I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Maybe I'll hold it as a rental. I don't know. But it just kind of depends on what the deal looks like. But I'm just trying to make this work. And these people are done with this house. They do not care if it forecloses. I'm trying to talk them into it. I mean, try to help me out here. Does that make sense? So, yeah. I mean, I definitely wouldn't tell the bank, oh, it's 260 and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I definitely shouldn't have told them how much it was. I should have said, oh, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was extremely high.
Yeah. Leave it vague.
I should have said it was pretty close to market value. I should have said something like that versus giving where I felt like that gave them the upper hand to negotiate against me. And I'm like, yes.
But even still, dude, I've done this a lot. And I don't know if Raph is still on here. He had one where the deal ended up not working because of title issues, but he got them from like 40 down to like $5,000 or something. And they started off at like 15 or 20 or something like this. And then he ended up really wearing them down, over time. The first person you did a great job. Like the first person that you talked to, you got them off 80% of value. Not bad.
Oh, it definitely, it was surprising knowing that they were willing to go that low. So that is cool knowing, I mean, this whole, even though from the beginning, I didn't think the house was going to work out, at least I learned so much from this deal. Like how many different banks, the authorization to release, it's like some banks are fine with the owner calling in and they'll talk to you immediately. Some they're not. Some they want, your firstborn, it's like they want so much information from you. But then there's, even talking to the solar company, like I never had to call a solar company about a solar lien on a property. Mm-hmm. It was just a learning experience and it was good for sure.
Yeah. And I thought that would happen, which is why I was like, hey, continue in it. You're going to learn something. And you learned what I hoped that you would learn is that a second mortgage is willing to highly discount. Dude, my guess is you're somewhere around maybe 10 to 12K and you would buy this all day. Something like that.
Yeah, it just sucks that he wouldn't even take it to his manager. You know what I mean? It's like
I would say, okay, so what's your name? Because whenever I call back, I'm going to get to a manager. And I'm going to tell them that you wouldn't put me through it.
Hey, why don't you just buy it? Why didn't you just buy it subject to and then go foreclose on it?
Oh,
wipe out the second lien. Foreclose on yourself.
Well, the first thing is they didn't want to reinstate the loan at all. Like
the seller.
Right? So that was one reason, but I actually never thought of that. That's really possible? People actually do that? They buy first and then foreclose and
wipe the second out. Yeah. Sure. And so you could probably buy the second for 70 or 80 cents on the dollar. My guess, the first, for 70 or 80 cents, something like that.
So how would that work?
Well, you'd have to have the cash ready.
Right.
So at that point, a hard money lender, they want an asset that's generally not paper because rehabbing paper is a little bit different than rehabbing property. And so you're probably going to have to do both. But, you'd have to, let's say, what was the amount on the first 220?
Yeah.
So 220 times 0.7. So you'd have to have 150K sitting or available to you, which I'm sure we could get in the group. Because it's a 300K exit, right?
Yeah, I would definitely for sure.
So, call the first mortgage company and say, hey, I see that you guys have this default. You guys, I'm working with frankly, I don't know if I would tell them that I'm working with the seller, but it's like, hey, I'm interested in buying this note. Who do I talk to? And kind of run the same thing. And so start at 125 and see if you can meet somewhere in the middle, 150, 170, because that would make a good deal. But you'd still have to take it through the foreclosure process.
Gotcha. So you would purchase the note and then foreclose? Wait, I'm kind of confused. How does that work?
Yeah. So let's say that they agree to 150. Okay. And you, You wire in 150, they give you an assignment of note on the deal. And so then you're in the position to foreclose. Well, the note's already defaulted. And this may be a state by state issue. So I don't think you would have to restart the foreclosure process, but you might. Okay. So you start the foreclosure process, and that's roughly a 6-month process in your state. So you get through the foreclosure process. And then at that point, let's say that the highest bid on the property is 220. Well, that's roughly what your payoff would be. So you get the difference in the 220 and the 150 that you bought the note for. Does that make sense? So,
right.
But if the property doesn't sell at the foreclosure steps, then you would get the property back and the second's wiped out.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, guys, there's more than one way to structure something, and the reason that I don't go to first and offer on deals is I just haven't found it necessary. Like generally we can buy equity faster by just dealing with the homeowner, catching it up, going on to another deal, but if you wanted to, for learning experience, it may make sense to jump into this and just see what it ended up being. And then if it ended up being, they said, well, we'll take 120 because we don't want to foreclose, then we raise some money and take it on.
Yeah, I would think that would be okay learning experience, except I think they're foreclosing within 30 days. So I don't think they'd want to sell it because they're taking it to auction pretty soon anyway.
Yeah. So, it's up to you. It may not work, may work. I don't know.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, that's it for me.
All right, man. Best of luck on that one Friday. Keith, what's happening?
I have a question regarding appraisals. At what point do you get an appraisal rather than going off of what you believe the ARV is or the current value is?
Very rarely. So, and this again goes back to conservatism, because I've seen appraisals vary by 20% on the same property. So I don't look at it as like the end all be all when it comes to value. But I'm trying to think of the last time we even got one. Generally speaking, guys, like we're buying so cheap that the value is obvious in terms of what we've created when we bought. And so if that's the case, then there's no need to go and get an appraisal. Like I have a pretty decent understanding of what the value is, and then I go to realtors and get comparable sales. So we bought a house in Atlanta, East Atlanta, yesterday. The contract came in. We bought it for 120. I knew that the value I thought was 180 the way it sat. Okay. I personally believe that we're looking at more like 190 because this is an appreciating market. We're going into spring, and this is it's a bigger house than the rest of the area. Okay. So it's like we got some issues there, but even at 180, we're good. And the value is obvious. We bought it for 120, multiple comps say 180, maybe it's 190, maybe 195. We'll see. But, if you need an appraisal, then I would kind of caution you that maybe the equity position is not obvious and it's not there, and maybe we should just find a safer deal.
Cool. That's pretty much around the same lines. If I can't find comps, I basically just am super transparent with that person. Tell them I don't want to take this deal unless I'm going to get a smoking price on it. And I don't, want to insult you with an offer. And most of the time they just get off the phone with me, which I'm totally fine with. I just mark them unqualified and they go on a follow-up trip. But I wanted to see if you had any, like, at this point, I get an appraisal. Like, you already know the value. So I'm already telling people if way out in the boonies, like there's just no comps, or I have to go back. Some of these places, I'll even go out 5 miles and back 5 years, and there's one sold property. And at that point, like, I'm genuinely not interested because I cannot verify. So that's when, if they came to me and said, Keith, I'll sell this for $2,000, at that point, I would get an appraisal to make sure that it's not worth $5, something crazy like that.
Yeah. And that's fine. But the thing is, man, like, because the data is out there now, like 30 years ago, having an appraisal, they had a lot more data than what you have.
Yeah.
But today with PropStream and everything else with the MLS, you have the same data that they do, generally speaking.
Correct. All right.
So, and we're going to take more time to verify value because it's our money.
Right.
They're not going to run our money like we are. So
I'm also refining my processes. So now I get to delete a line item.
There you go. That's perfect.
Thanks.
That's perfect. Anybody else have anything? All right, guys. we'll shut it down for today. Next support calls Thursday evening, 7:30 Central Time. Appreciate you guys being with us. If you guys need anything, just reach out. We'll see you guys next time. Y'all take it easy.
All right. Thanks, Brad.
See you, Ray.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks, guys.
All right, man. See y'all.